I've said it before, PlayStation games are not as unique as they've been touted to be. I like PlayStation games, some of them. I've played a good number of PlayStation games that I like. I used to play primarily on a PlayStation device. But when I started to pretty much take a look at, what the general gaming industry had been offering, there's just too much competition. And yes, you become partners when it comes to who's vying for your dollars in this particular gaming scene out here, that at the end of the day, a PlayStation game can't really stand out or stand against the barrage of many factors that comes into the video game space. You can put Xbox in the same place. You could also put Nintendo in the same place. No doubt about that. Their games are unique, but they're just other games out there. Yes, maybe somebody may want to play a Nintendo-based game, but if they have a PC or they have a PlayStation or an Xbox and don't want to spend $400, they're not going to spend $400, and they're also going to have games to play. Their experience is not going to be changing, not limited, not more enhanced by them worrying about a game that's on another platform that they can't play. So this particular rumor that Kami shared is one that I thought was very interesting. He said, rumor, Intergalactic, the heretic prophet, is inspired by Elden Ring in terms of player freedom. It's a very interesting rumor because the timeline does not really support this rumor. And again, when I see rumor, I really go, what? However, I was thinking, okay, what are the nuggets here? What's the context here? And so he says, Minimax's Benson Hansen, who said this, I've heard Naughty Dog's next game is very inspired by a game with a lot of player freedom. Elden Ring is what it was compared to. It's taking place on one planet, uncovering the history of this world. You can kind of see a little bit where they might be going with that. Well, again, Neil Druckmann did say something along the lines of, he had to, basically go ahead and concede that games like Elden Ring do have a place, blah, 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 blah. After that whole big conversation of how, modern developers make games and they hold your hand through the games. They don't let you actually explore, or you're not inspired by the game and such. And so Kami put this 17-second clip up here as the context piece. Okay, so let's listen to it.
A while ago, before the reveal trailer happened, I teased that idea of I've heard Naughty Dog's next game is very inspired by a game with a lot of player freedom. And I think it's fine to say it now, because that game was Elden Ring is what it was compared to back then. But if I would have said Naughty Dog's next game is like Elden Ring, and then that reveal trailer comes out, I feel like we would have been lit on fire. But now that idea of okay, it's taking place on one planet, kind of uncovering the history of this world, you can kind of see a little bit more where they might be going with that. So exciting stuff.
Sounds cool.
Okay. Now, let's read some comments. A space game, but you're on one planet the entire time, is disappointing. I wonder what game lets you go to other planets that got lambasted, that pretty much took what's called mid and was, beats me. This one says, well, Intergalactic, this comment's actually very telling. Says, well, Intergalactic started development in 2020. Elden Ring was released in 2022. Did they have a time machine or something? So this person said, chasing trends, once again. One way to get me even more hyped for a game is to tell me that the game is inspired by Elden Ring. Okay, maybe that might work for you. Too bad it's crap design, though. And then the roasting continues. Makes sense. They said in the Grounded 2 documentary that they were inspired by Bloodborne for The Last of Us Part 2. So being inspired by a similar game for Intergalactic was the next step. So it's a Souls game. All these questions are very interesting that these folk are asking, but I have to say, whether or not the game is inspired by Elden Ring or whatever it is, there still seems to be the fact that a lot of these third-party development studios have already created an impression on even the PlayStation first-party lineup that now, when it's all said and done, it shows that the creativity is so diverse out there that the PlayStation titles, they have work to do, man. They have their work cut out for them. To be able to go out there and basically take player attention, especially in a market where things are very, very tight, players are not really too, willing to spend money or give you money. Like, studios are basically collapsing if players just walk and say, we're not going to touch your game anyways. And games like, Balatro and small titles are seeing good success. It stands to show that Naughty Dog, on the other hand, has just basically been this overhyped studio riding on the coattails of some of its past games that people did like, that really did push the envelope. So now they have to take notes from some real masters out there who didn't have all the flash and all of the marketing budget and, high fidelity cutscenes and blah, 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 blah. But eventually, after time and over time, they went ahead and they established themselves. And they were able to churn out a game like Elden Ring that everybody got to see some real beauty in terms of game development and in terms of artistic and open world exploration and game mechanics and all, that now everybody wants to say, oh yeah, we're taking inspiration from this game. Which has always been my suspicion, because I've always looked at PlayStation games and gone, man, when you play other games out there though, like, you look and say, what's so special? Like, I mean, it's just something that you ask yourself and say, okay, yeah, I played God of War 2018, solid game, no doubt about that. But then if you play a game like Nier Automata, you go and say, man, it's also a really good game. Like they're good games out there, really solid games. Jedi Fallen Order, inspired by, one of the combat directors that worked on the old God of War games, Ascension, and some of these other games, worked on the combat for Jedi Fallen Order and also was leading combat for Jedi Survivor. So those games, when you see the streaks of excellence in those games, man, you got to say, man, this is also a good game. It has those, tropes across the board, because these developers will work and they will jump and cross over to other studios within the industry, and their ideas sometimes materialize in those studios, and you get to see some really cool stuff, when it comes down to it. So the industry is a very dynamic place, and we can't necessarily put stock in the, in the conversation that only one studio is going to be very good at doing something over the course of time or whatever the heck it is. Like you look at a game like Black Myth Wukong, right? Everybody was talking about that game and all that, and the game's gonna be this, and then you look at the game Phantom Blade Zero, all of this stuff is being talked about. But then you look again and say, okay, what's going on across the industry? Then there's a game like Wu Chang, Fallen Feathers. Game already looks solid just from what we're seeing in the presentations. Then you see that Koei Tecmo is cooking up Ninja Gaiden 4, right? Because the industry has a lot of innovation going on across the board. It really does set everybody's, expectations in today's day and age now, where if you say, oh, my game is going to be unique in a sense, it really does have to be unique. Intergalactic is going to have to be super unique to be able to have any draw on audiences right now, because, man, now is not the time to screw around. Audiences they're going to ignore your game, bro. So I wish them good luck at Naughty Dog, man. They know what to do. They probably have the answers to the questions their fans are asking. And boy, it's going to be a really, really strong, and tight competitive environment that Intergalactic is going to be launching in. And just saying it's inspired by Elden Ring, that may not be enough to cut it. Because Elden Ring is Elden Ring. And the developers at Bandai Namco are going to be launching Night Rain. And I suspect they're going to be launching another Elden Ring game coming very soon, because Night Rain is not part 2 of Elden Ring. And if they were to do that, or even make any announcement or any allusion to the fact that that game exists, I'm sorry, man. Intergalactic is going to basically face a huge threat. So again, we'll see how, all things land, but it's going to be very interesting at the end of the day. Thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.